So in this session, I'll be talking about brand decision making. I think by now you have got a fair bit of idea about the concept of brand equity. Both the professors have discussed in great length to get you an understanding about some important aspects of brands. So in this lecture, I'll be talking about brand decision making, and I will focus on consumer perspective as well as the marketers or the company's perspective as far as brand decision making is concerned. So let us start our discussion with a little bit of historical background. So this idea of brand, you can say that it's not just a modern concept, but this is something which was there in an earlier time also, but in a different manner. In earlier times, people used to spot a symbol or a logo onto the skin of the animals that they had. That means they used to put a mark on the skin of the animals, usually farmers. They used to do it. What was the purpose of doing this? The purpose was that if the animal gets lost or it's stolen, and then at some point of time you are able to recover it, then that mark will prove that you are the owner of that particular cow or cattle, whatever you have. So it was a kind of, it was a symbol of ownership, that I own this. Okay. And different farmers, they had different symbols so that they can differentiate between themselves. So throughout history, people have marked items not simply to signify ownership, but also to enhance their value. So over a period of time, this association of mark with ownership that has moved to mark and some value added to that particular item or product, whatever you see. So it is not just confined to ownership. That mark is now a symbol about value. Okay? How my products, my services are different from that of competitors. In many cases, you will see that the raw materials that are supplied by the vendors to the companies, they have some seals, some marks on the packages. Okay? Why they do that? To make you understand that what we are offering to you is of good quality. It meets the quality specifications. It meets the quality standards. Even you'll see this kind of application in artistic work. For example, say you see a painting by a famous artist. What you see? You see at the bottom there is a signature given by the artist. What is the purpose of that? The purpose is to ensure authenticity. Because two pictures, two artistic work, they may look same, but price-wise, there will be a variation between the original version and the counterfeit. Okay. So initially, the idea of branding was to establish ownership, to identify the owner, the company, the maker. But over a period of time, it has evolved to increase the value of objects. So it's now, when we talk about brands, it's not just the product or the service itself, but it also signifies the value that it provides to the customers. Now, marketers, they make a distinction between product and brands, right? So probably Professor Gore has talked about this a little bit, like the example that he was talking about, water. So you go to a restaurant, the tap water that you use to wash your hand, do they charge any fees for it? It's free. But the moment you take a bottled water, there will be a price to it. Okay? So that means what? Why they are charging that fees for that bottled water? Because in our minds we perceive that the bottled water is pure, it's clean, it has some valuable minerals which are good for our health, and we believe it's better, it's safe to drink that bottled water rather than the water coming from the tap, and we pay some price for it. Okay. So there is a distinction between product and brand. The brand name adds some value to the product. The distinction between a brand and a product or commodity can be encapsulated in the idea of added value, which is represented in this format: product plus brand assets. Okay. What are these brand assets that we are talking about? This brand asset can be, say, the brand name, the packaging, the price, the features, the way it is advertised, the history of the brand. Okay. So those are the value addition that a brand provides to a product. And these brand assets, they have some financial significance for the company. We call it as the brand equity. So Professor Dutta has already talked about in details about brand equity in the last class. Now, where from these financial significance comes as far as the brand asset is concerned? It comes from two major aspects. One is the entry barrier that the brand creates, and the other is the loyal customer base that it creates, from where you can be ensured of getting future business. So do you have any idea about entry barriers? What are entry barriers? Any idea about it? So the brand creates entry barriers in the market. So what it means, the entry barriers, any idea about it?
They may be acting as monopoly. They want to.
Okay. Monopoly can be a form of entry barrier. Any other?
Maybe very scarce, maybe very unique, very noble.
Right. Anything else?
Patents to technology.
Patents, technology. Okay. Let me give you a few examples to clarify this concept of entry barriers. Think about the cola market. What are the two brands that we have across the globe?
Pepsi and Coca-Cola.
Pepsi and Coca-Cola. Is there a third brand?
Thumbs up.
They are all taken up by either Coca-Cola or Pepsi. So globally you have two big brands. One is Coca-Cola and the other is Pepsi, and the market share, the major market share belongs to these two companies. That means what? Other companies are unable to enter the market, or even if they enter the market, they are not able to sustain their business. What's the reason? there's an entry barrier. In case of the cola market, the entry barrier is the money that the companies are spending on advertising and promotion. If you look at Coca-Cola and Pepsi, they are spending billions of dollars on advertisement, on promotion, so that their brand remains on the top of the mind awareness among the customers. Because you see, this cola, this beverage, this is actually a very kind of routine product. You can't make much differences between two different brands. So what you have to do, you have to keep that your brand name at the top of the mind awareness among the consumers, so that whenever people think of taking a cola, okay, Coca-Cola will be the first name that comes to my mind. Okay, so wherever you go, they're using all the different kinds of platforms, all the possible ways to advertise, and advertise. And the money that they are spending, a new entrant will not be able to match that. So what will happen? Either their market share will be very low, or they will not be able to enter, or even enter, they will not be able to survive in the market. You think about the soaps and shampoos and the house cleaning items that you purchase for your household use. If you look at those brands, you will see either they belong to P&G or they belong to H&M. Again, these are the companies which have created an entry barrier. In this case, where is the entry barrier? It is the distribution channels. Okay, both these companies, they have an extensive network of distribution. Okay, they're spread across the entire country. They have access to all the distribution channels because they spend a lot of money to get access to all the markets. Big markets, small markets, moderate, medium-sized markets. So if a new company wants to compete with them, they will not be able to do that. Okay. They will not be able to spend that kind of money. Like entry barriers, there are also exit barriers, but that's a different concept. I'll talk about it maybe sometimes later. So when we talk about these brand assets come from, one is by creating entry barriers, and the other is by creating a strong customer base. When we talk about strong customer base, it is not just confined to brand loyalty. It goes beyond brand loyalty, where customers will be the brand advocates. We talk about concepts like brand love, brand evangelism, which goes beyond the concept of brand loyalty. So when you have customers who have brand love, who are brand advocates, who practice brand evangelism, then you know you are assured of future business from those group of customers, because they're never going to leave you. They're not only going to leave you, but they are going to defend you. Even if, say, I have a very strong affection or emotional connection in, say, for example, Samsung, and if you tell me something negative about Samsung, I'll defend it. I'll fight with it. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about brand advocacy, brand evangelism, brand love. And I'll also give you an example of brand love at the end. So it's clear. So two things. One is the entry barriers, and the other is the strong customer base. So you may think that branding, creating brands, this is what the marketers do. Definitely, they will try to create a brand image among the minds of the consumers, but ultimately it is the customers who will decide upon the brand aspect, because everything is in the minds or the perception of the customers. You may try to create a particular image about your brand, but what perception customers have about your brand, that may be entirely different. Take the case of Tata Nano. Is it still manufacturing? No. When it was launched, how it was positioned? How it was positioned? What was the brand positioning?
Cheapest car.
Cheapest car. It was cheapest car. You can get it in less than a couple of lakhs. So that's how they positioned it. They felt that people will purchase it. Okay. But what was the ground reality? What was the perception that customers had about that particular brand? Many people said it's a modified auto, glorified auto. People said if it costs me less than a couple of lakhs, and what about quality? What about features?
Service problems.
Yes, safety features. Space is pretty low. So people didn't accepted that proposition that Tata put up as far as Nano is concerned. So what happened? People stopped purchasing, sales went down, and then now production has shut down. So ultimately, when you talk about branding, it comes down to the perception of the customers, the consumers in the marketplace. What they perceive about your brand, that matters at the end of the day. So it's very important for companies to conduct market research and try to understand about consumer purchase or buying decision, because based on those they will get insights about customers' attitudes, about customers' behavior, and based on that they will come up with their marketing strategies. So that's why I said I will talk about this brand decision making from two perspectives. One is the customer and the other is the marketer. So when we talk about consumers' purchase decision making, there are 5 stages involved in that process. I'll briefly go through it. We start with problem recognition. The first stage is the problem recognition when we're talking about the consumer buying process. So problem recognition is what? When there is a gap between your present state and your desired state. When you feel that gap, that means there is a need to solve that problem. For example, say when you are at home and you are hungry, what do you do? What is the need? The need is food. Okay, so maybe you go to the kitchen and open the freeze, and whatever is there you gulp it, or maybe nowadays your online delivery system, you can place an order on Zomato or Swiggy and get some food. So the first stage is problem recognition. This is about unfulfilled needs. We have unfulfilled needs, and as a customer, as a consumer, we want to satisfy it. This need can be created internally or externally. Like the example that I talked about food, it is internal, it's physiological. You are hungry, you need food. But why do you need a 42-inch LED television? Do you really need it? So who creates this need? Huh? Not exactly society. Yeah. The company, the marketers, they create this need. You are exposed to advertisements, okay, and then you feel, no, I need to move on from this small television to a larger one. My car has become small. Now I need to move on to SUV. So sometimes these needs are created by the marketers through marketing communication. They make you feel that you are deprived of something, and we have the solution. Now once you have a problem, once you have a need, you have to satisfy it by purchasing a product or maybe availing a service. So what we do in the next stage, we go for information search. This information search is about what? About a product or service that can fulfill my need. Okay. Now, This information search can be internal or external. Internal means what? From our memory. Maybe you have faced a similar kind of problem earlier, and by purchasing a certain product or service you have solved it. So internal means based on your memory, based on your past experiences. External is what? When you try to collect that information from, maybe say from your friends, maybe from your peers, maybe from some data that is available in the public domain, maybe from advertisements, okay, maybe by visiting the company's website. So when we go for information search, we search about the product or service that can solve our problems, and that search can be internal or external. Third is alternative evaluation. You don't end up purchasing 4 brands of televisions. Do you do it? No. You purchase a particular brand. So how you come to that particular brand? You have to make some evaluation. You may be having a number of choices, but for you it's not feasible to purchase all the different options that you have. So you have to narrow it down to a single choice. And for that, you need to evaluate the different options that you have. So how you make this evaluation?
Okay.
This evaluation will be based on certain criteria that you have in your mind, based on your knowledge, based on the information that you have gathered. For example, say if you want to purchase a car, what can be the possible criteria? First is budget. Okay, price. Anything else?
Budget.
Seat.
Speed.
Capacity.
Capacity. How will you define quality in terms of car?
New features.
Safety. So that means we have certain criteria in your mind. For example, say you may think about engine, you may think about mileage, you may think about safety features, you will think about leg space, you will think about the design. Okay. So you collect information about different brands on these attributes, and then you evaluate. Now among these attributes, some will be compensatory, some will be non-compensatory. Compensatory means what? You are ready to make a trade-off. For example, say leg space. So if the leg space is a little bit less than what you are looking for, you may want to make a trade-off with another important attribute. But will you make a trade-off for safety? Safety is an absolute feature. There should be airbags, there should be ABS. If these criteria features are not present in the car, I am not going to purchase it. And then there is a different method of doing the calculations. I am not going there. But just remember that we will evaluate based on certain features, certain criteria, and among those criteria, some may be compensatory, some may be non-compensatory. Next is acquisition. This is the stage where you end up purchasing the product or availing the service. So here, the thing becomes from where you are purchasing the product, the retail store, or maybe from where you are getting the service. That's important to you, from where you make the purchase. The last stage is post-purchase evaluation. So once you have made a purchase, what can be the outcomes? What can be the outcomes once you have made a purchase?
Might regret it.
Yeah?
Might regret the purchase.
Okay, you might regret it, right?
The product is not performing to my expectations.
Okay. So let's talk about two things. The first is satisfaction or dissatisfaction. So once you make a purchase, either you can be satisfied or dissatisfied. When you will be satisfied? When the commodity will be performing as per your expectations. You are satisfied. If it doesn't perform as per your expectations, you are dissatisfied. And from a marketer's point of view, it's very important to understand whether customers are satisfied or not. Because if customers are satisfied, that means they will talk positively about your brand to others. Word of mouth. And nowadays we have social media, electronic word of mouth, which spreads much faster than the word of mouth in the traditional marketplace. On the other hand, if customers are dissatisfied, many things can happen. They will talk about it negatively to others. They may lodge a complaint. They may come up with a court case against you. They may sue you. Okay. So number of consequences can be there if customers are dissatisfied. And statistics shows that the money that a company spends in holding to their existing customer is much less than the money that a company spends in getting new customers. So one is satisfaction, dissatisfaction. The other part that he was talking about, regret, we call it as cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance. Have you heard about it? So what it is?
Is the reactions of customers when after this final product?
Cognitive dissonance is the anxiety after making the purchase, the tension that you have, that whether I have made the right purchase or not. I have gone for option A, probably option B could have been better, probably option C could have been better. So this cognitive dissonance happens when you are purchasing items where the perceived risk is high, where the price of the item is high. The decision is irreversible, you cannot change it. In those cases, cognitive dissonance takes place. And marketers, they know it, and that's why they have also come up with some strategies to take care of these cognitive dissonance. So what are these? Your warranties, your guarantees. Okay. The customer
Test
care.
drive also.
Yeah.
Does that test drive?
A test drive is prior to making the purchase. To get you an idea, it's a kind of sampling technique, you can say. Sampling technique in the sampling in the sense like you want to purchase a shampoo, they will give you a sachet of shampoo free of cost, so that you use it once and then if you feel like you can purchase it. Test drive is similar. You take a drive for 10, 15, 20 minutes, you see whether you like it or not, and then you can take a decision whether you're going to purchase it or not. But that is before making the purchase. We are talking about post-purchase. So many times you will see that, for example, if you are purchasing some electronic gadgets, the customer service, the person in the customer service center from the company will call you and try to know that if everything is fine, if everything is okay or not. So that gives you an assurance that the company is taking care of us. It's not like they're just selling and it's done and dusted. No. The company is there to solve our problems. If we face any difficulties, they are there. That assurance is given by making those phone calls. Okay. So companies also have a number of strategies to counter or take care of this cognitive dissonance. So these are the 5 stages in the consumer buying process.
Sir, one question I had, like you mentioned that companies spend a lot of more money in acquiring new customers than maintaining the existing customer. Is it same across industry?
For any business, is the same story. You have to spend a lot of money on advertisements, on promotion, coming up with new models. So whenever you're trying to get in new customers, and companies, they do it, they have to spend, they have to put in a lot of more effort, more resources to get the new customers, rather than holding on to the existing customers. Because existing customers, loyal customers, they will make some adjustment. If there are some issues with your product, they are ready to give you a second chance. But new customers, they will not give you a second chance. Now the thing is that we talked about these 5 stages, but in case of all purchasing decisions, these 5 stages may not be followed in reality, in practical life. Okay. So what we have different types of decision making as far as purchase is concerned. Extended, limited and nominal. Now these three types are based on the level of involvement of customer with the buying decision. Okay. Extended means here the customer will follow all the 5 stages of the decision making process. Why? Because the customer's level of involvement is very high. When the customer's level of involvement will be high, when the perceived risk is very high. Okay. You know about risk, the different types of risk. Okay. Financial risk, functional risk. You heard about it? So when the risk level is very high, customer's involvement will be very high. Think about purchasing a new apartment, purchasing an automobile. Will you just straight away walk into the store and make the purchase? No. You will put in a lot of time, put in a lot of effort, okay, to be absolutely sure and then take the decision. So that is extended, which is associated with high involvement. Limited is what?
There are some customers who never justify to take and just receive other people that is people to buy.
Limited is moderate level of involvement. If you want to purchase a laptop, if you want to purchase, say, a dress, say for some wedding in your family, then the yes, madam?
Premium segment.
Yeah. So in that case, your involvement will be moderate. You may not follow all the 5 steps. You may skip a here or there, but thing is that you will go through almost all the steps. Nominal is where the involvement of the customers in the buying decision is absolutely low. This happens when you are purchasing routine items. The items that you are purchasing on a regular basis. In those cases, you may skip most of the stages. Straight from need recognition or problem recognition, you can end up purchasing. So for which type of purchases you do that?
Water bottle.
Huh?
Water bottle. Mineral water bottle.
Okay. But still you don't drink tap water.
Any FMCG product.
For example, you want to purchase, say, bread, or biscuits, or cookies. You spend a lot of time. You straight away go to your neighborhood store and say you give me a packet of Parle biscuits. If your favorite brand is not available, will you wait for it? Will you go to another store? No. But you will do that in case of extended and to some extent in case of limited. So based on the involvement, what will happen? Whether customers will follow all the stages or not, that will be determined. So understanding how consumers think, feel and act is critical to make effective brand decisions. So at first, as a marketer, you have to understand what the customers think, what the customers feel, what is their attitude, what is their behavior. Based on that, you will set up your marketing strategies. And this is where the concept of branding comes into play. You've heard about brand, we have talked about what brand means. I'll be talking about branding, how you implement that in the marketplace. So branding is a strategic process of creating and managing a brand's image and perception. So you not only have to create the image of the brand, but you also have to manage it. And how you manage it, we will talk about that. And it's a strategic process. Strategic process means what? The decision that you will take, the actions that you will take related to your brand, that will have a long-term ramifications, that will have an impact throughout the entire organization. So successful branding can lead to increased brand awareness, customer loyalty, higher prices, and competitive advantage. I'll give you some examples at the end to cover these points, how this can be done. So when we talk about brand decision making, the first thing that you have to do as a marketer is you have to conduct market research. Okay, and companies, whether big or small, they spend a lot of money as far as this market research is concerned. Because through market research, you get information from the customers. Okay, and then you collect a whole lot of data and then you analyze those data. So market research can be done using surveys, interviews, focus groups. So these are all traditional methods. These are there for a long period of time. But nowadays we have something new, and that is your social media. Nowadays almost all companies, they have a presence on the social media, on the internet, and consumers, they interact a lot, they share their ideas, they post their views about different brands, and companies, they analyze those data. And nowadays with the advent of AI, companies are using machine language tools to analyze those data. For example, say you have sensitivity analysis, okay, which we can do using social media data to understand customer sentiments about your brand. And you know, in social media, the major advantage is that people post whatever they think. If I take an interview, if I give you a questionnaire to fill up, there can be manipulations. What answers you are giving, that may not reflect your true thoughts. But in case of social media, a lot of that problem goes out of the window because it's a kind of place where people express themselves without holding themselves back. So what you are getting is some kind of authentic data. So the data that you get from these different sources or through these different techniques will give you a lot of insights, okay, which will help you to determine about how you are going to come up with your marketing strategies. To give you an example, Dove came up with this ad campaign. They called it as Real Beauty. Okay. If I am not wrong, this campaign was launched in 2004. If I am not wrong about the year. So how they came up with this campaign, which became a huge success for the company, which enhanced the brand image of the company. The story behind this successful campaign, it starts with a market survey, where Dove found that they surveyed women about the concept of beauty, and they found that only 2% of the women who were surveyed, they considered themselves to be beautiful. Because whenever you look at any beauty products, the way beauty is explained or presented, that is very unrealistic. So what Dove did, Dove came up with a number of common women. Okay. They're not celebrities, they're not models, just common women from different parts of the society, from different jobs, all those. So this campaign marked a significant shift in the beauty industry by challenging traditional beauty standards and promoting inclusivity. So they came up with a diversified group of women from different backgrounds, and they showed, or the concept that they tried to present is that it doesn't matter how you look. Okay? The way other products, other brands are presenting the concept of women beauty, that is unrealistic. You should love yourself the way you look. It doesn't matter what is your background, who are you, where from you are coming, but all of you are beautiful. That's how they presented the ad. The ads are available on the internet. If you want, you can search the internet and you will see the ads. Okay. So, if you look at that, probably that will give you a better perspective. So, they talked a lot about body positivity. Okay, they talked about the color doesn't matter. So all these things were presented in the ad. If you want to see that, you can have a look at it. But this became a big success for the company, and as I said, it enhanced the brand image from here to here. So this is a success story of branding, it's a story of successful branding, and the starting point of this success story is the market research. So this will be there in the Google Drive, so you can have the entire content about the ad. The next thing is brand position.
Like sir, in the previous example, how did customers associate the brand with real beauty? Like, what was the
Here they are not talking about real beauty. Here they talk in a very simple way that the essence of the ad was that what you see in other ads, the way beauty is presented to you, that is very unrealistic. So whatever you are, how you are beautiful. You accept it and move ahead.
So
It's not like we're not making that you have to be like this to be beautiful, but whatever you are, you're beautiful.
So
Accept yourself.
what was the perception that was created by the brand?
So when you come across this kind of ad, that means what? They're talking about inclusivity. They are against body shaming. Okay. So that's the idea or the message that you get. And when you see that a company or a brand has these thoughts, definitely your attitude towards that particular brand will be positive. You'll say, okay, at least they're not talking about things, unrealistic things, just to sell their products. So the next one is brand positioning. So positioning is the perception, the distinct image that a company wants to create in the minds of the customers. Just think about Maggi. Huge success, a very well-known brand. How it positioned itself. It positioned itself in a very unique manner. 2-minute noodle. So when We Are Kings, Maggi was launched by Nestle, and the ad featured that some kids are playing on the field and then they come back to the house and they're very hungry and they just ask their mother, please give us food, we are very hungry. And the mother says, just 2 minutes. And that became an iconic statement, okay, for that particular brand, 2 minutes. So you have a food, a tasty food, which kids will like, okay, and it also fill your tummy, and all this can be done in just 2 minutes. That's how it positioned itself, and still 40 years later, they are positioned in the same manner, 2-minute noodle. Okay, even you will see that in packages nowadays. So that clicked, that worked. Now, brands can position themselves based on price. For example, you think about Southwest Airlines, the cheapest airline. They have positioned themselves as the cheapest airlines. It can be based on attributes, unique features. That's what Microsoft, Apple's, they do. It can be based on benefit. For example, see if I ask you, every morning you use toothpaste. What's the purpose? What for we use toothpaste in the morning? What's the purpose? Cleaning, freshness. Anybody else?
Maintain oral hygiene.
So you see, same product, but three different persons, their purpose of using the toothpaste is different. Somebody is going for freshness, somebody is going for cleaning or whitening of teeth, somebody is talking about oral hygiene, somebody will be talking about taking care of gum problems. Okay? So you can position your brand based on different benefits. Okay. For example, close-up, we will talk about freshness. Any, say Dabur, we will talk about taking care of the dental cavities, or Sensodyne, we will talk about taking care of the dental cavities. So brands can position themselves based on different benefits. Usage occasion, when you can use it. Dettol for nicks and cuts. Vicks Vapora for child cold in the night. You see those, that's how they position themselves. Or competitor. You can directly place yourself or position yourself relative to your competitors. You can compare yourself with the competitors. I'll show you an excellent ad for the last one. So this is about Tesla, which focuses on innovation and sustainability. Okay, they position themselves as an environmental friendly car for educated people. Now let me show you this ad. A very interesting ad. You know, in US market, rental car market is almost as big as the commercial car or automobile market. A lot of people, they rent cars, and that itself is a very big industry. And a company named Hertz, H-E-R-T-Z, Hertz, is the #1 player in that particular industry. Here you can see the ad of the company which is #2. Okay, which is #2. And what they are talking about? We're talking about this company and this. This is the company which is in second position in the US car rental market. And what you see here, first you look at the image, what you see here, a big fish swallowing a small fish. So that means what? Abyss is saying that Hertz is the big fish. We are the little fish because our position is #2. And since we are #2, we are working harder to maintain our position. We are providing you better services, better facilities. Why? Because we are #2, we are not the market leaders. And if we do not provide you better services, better facilities, you will leave us. Our market share will go down. Just go through it for once. Just go through it. Especially the second part of the ad. An excellent advertisement for as far as branding is concerned. And very cleverly, they are telling you what are the things that they are doing or they are providing to you so that you are satisfied, so that you are happy. And see. And since we are not the big fish, you won't feel like a sardine when you come to our counter. You know this? Sardine is a kind of fish which moves in groups. There are a lot of fishes moving together. So that means what? Our counters will not be crowded. You can book the car very quickly. Okay. So I think you've got an idea about what this ad is trying to tell you. I'll quickly move to the third aspect, say the decision making, brand decision making. So that is about brand development. Okay. Now, for developing a brand, marketers have 4 options based on where your business is right now. You can go for line extension, brand extension, there can be multi-brands, or you can go for a new brand. If you look at this 2 into 2 matrix, you will get a clear idea about these concepts. Line extension means what? Product category, it's existing, and brand name is also existing. So introducing new products within the same product category under the same brand name. Think about Coca-Cola, Pepsi, the different flavors that you have in case of Coca-Cola or Pepsi. That is an example of line extension. Same product, same brand name, different flavors. Next is brand extension. So this quadrant. So introducing new products in a different product category under the existing name. Brand name same, but the product category is different. Think about Godrej. So what is Godrej famous for? Locks. Locks. It is also into refrigerators. It is now also into furniture. It is also, it has a product like hair coloring. So different types of products, but under the same brand. Next is multi-brands. Launching multiple brands within the same product category. Think about HUL, soap, Lifebuoy, Lux, and Dove. Lifebuoy is for whom? No, this, I mean, who are the target customers in case of Lifebuoy?
Bottom of the pyramid.
Not bottom, okay, I mean, bottom of the pyramid will be a very strong term, but yes, if you think about, the society in terms of strata, medium for the lower strata.
For the mass.
Lux is for the middle class, and then you have Dove, that is basically what. Or you can come up with altogether a new brand. New brand is new name, new product. Tesla, electric car. I have given you some examples, so let me just talk about this Coca-Cola only. Share a Coke. Just let me show you this illustration. So Coca-Cola came up with this campaign, Share a Coke. Okay. And what was the uniqueness here? Can you tell me? Customized in terms of what? That means they came up with a campaign where instead of having the Coca-Cola label on the bottles, you can have your name as the label. Okay. So in this way, they tried to create an emotional connection or bonding with the customers. Okay. And that really clicked. It started in Australia probably in 2011, and then it moved to different places of the globe. This campaign was also launched in India. For example, say they showed an ad where on the label it's written Papa. That means a kid has got this customized for his or her father. So it creates a kind of emotional connection or bonding. That brings the brand closer to you. Okay. And the last slide, I talk about the digital aspects. Now we are living in a digital world, as so well explained by Professor Gore, and we are all like digital natives, irrespective of which generation you belong to. And few things have become very important here. So all these are there, but let me talk just about social media influencers. They have become a very important part in developing your brand. You know, these social media influencers, many a times these influencers are common people like you and me, who have created some post. They have posted it on YouTube or TikTok or other social media platforms like Facebook or Instagram. People have liked their post. Electronic word of mouth has worked, and they have become famous with a huge followers. And the thing is that studies shows that consumers, they believe these social media influences, the content that is coming from SMIs. They feel that to be more credible, more, you can put more trust on those messages rather than those coming from advertisements having celebrities or spokesperson as the brand influencer. So they are playing a very important role in creating or destroying brand images. Okay. So what companies can do, companies can collaborate with these social media influencers to get their message communicated to the customers in the marketplace. And many companies, they are doing it. Okay, can you name some of the popular SMIs that you come across and you follow?
Gary Minati.
Huh?
Gary Minati.
Okay.
In his recent
Shah Rukh Khan is in that way, Cristiano Ronaldo has the highest follower, but they are also social media influencers. But in true sense, social media influencers are those people who are not celebrities. So there are many social media influencers who are almost in all different kinds of product categories, okay, for services, and people follow them, trust them. So they are playing a very important role on a digital platform as far as branding is concerned. And we also have social media platforms and digital campaigns nowadays where you can track whether the message that you're communicating with the customers that is working or not, and you can do that in real time. I talked about that analyzing the comments of customers on the social media platform, the sensitivity analysis we talked about. Through that you can get real-time data, real-time feedback about whether the branding strategies are working or not. So I'll stop it here. In the next class, I'll talk about services, how we do branding of services. Okay. Thank you.